Hey guys, this is Forsaken Reality here with the 5th episode of the RPG tutorial series. In this episode we're going to be dealing with the pickup of our items, and we're going to be using a line trace to pick up our items. So without further ado, I'll get into that. First thing we're going to want to do is get a sword mesh. I'll be leaving a download for a sword mesh a friend of mine created for this tutorial series in the description, but you could use whatever sword mesh you want. Basically, I'm just going to go to my RPG tutorial series, meshes, just create a new folder, static meshes, and I'll just create one skeletal meshes, so I can throw the character in there for now. Just gonna fix up redirectors and save. And in my static meshes folder, I'm just gonna drop my sword model here. And I'll set up these for. Yeah, actually, this is the materials that we get. I'll just quickly set these up. If you don't want to use these swords, you can skip this part of the video. Basically, this is the hilt, so we'll just make this a brown. Grip. Keep that black for now. And the blade, just put a gray. So there's our sword, and I'm just gonna put this yellow, just because. And I'm just gonna put this brown. Just quickly setting up these materials so they're not all one. Whatever, that's good enough. Okay, so there is our sword and our sword materials. Just gonna create a new folder called materials. Get things unorganized and doing too much. There we go. That'll work for now. Let's fix up redirectors. Okay, so now we have our sword mesh. Now we want to go to our blueprints folder because we're going to want to create a. We have a holdable blueprint, but we want to create a pickup blueprint. So we can destroy this actor. So you want to right click, create a blueprint actor. EP score master pickup. And basically when you'll destroy this actor and create this one, and vice versa when you're dropping an item, but we'll do that later. And we'll create a child. Let's call this BP_sword. It's gonna save. We're gonna open the master pickup. And we're just gonna add a mesh. Static mesh. Pickup mesh. And we will set this right here. We will set this. Okay, yeah, we're just gonna leave this blank for now. We're gonna go to our BB sword and look for our sword mesh. Put that in there. And we're gonna wanna create a couple variables in here. One will be stance, May change how this is used later, so it's all from the holdable. But for now, we need to use this at least once in here. And same thing with the holdable blueprint, which will get the master holdable blueprint. Oh, it's got to be a class reference to it, so that we can call that, and we can get a reference to that or any child of it. So once we have those two variables created, and we don't want to create them in the sword, sorry, we want to create them in the master pickup stance. So this will get our stance enum, where we set the melee, range, or magic combat styles stances, and holdable BP. Gonna make sure we're doing it in the master class, because now that's in this one, we can go here if we wanted to, and we can call stance and get it from any child of the master. But it'll also we can use the holdable BP to set the stance in here to, like, for example, for our sword, we're going to need to set the stance to melee, and the holdable BP, we don't have one yet, so I'm just going to set this so I can browse to it, and it's in our items holdable folder, and we're going to create a child, call it BP sword. I'm actually going to go to my pickups and name this. I'm going to want to name them differently. It's going to see the naming I used in mine. Yeah, it's going to put a P after the end of it for reference that it's a pickup. And I messed that up. So now we know that's a pickup. We want to go to our holdables, BB sword. And in here we actually want to go to our master holdable first, because we're going to want to create a item details variable, and this will reference our structure st item details, which that's where we're storing all of our items information right now. Eventually we'll switch this to a data table, so that when an item we can fill out the data table rather than filling out every blueprint, and then it'll feed from the data table to each item and fill out this data here. That'll be in the next video. So now that we have this variable, we want to go to our BP sword and open up our item details. Set our stance to melee, type to sword, and our holdable BP to BP sword. I don't think, yeah, we'll set that there for now. And then you want to go to your sword pickup class. Now that we have this created, we can open this up and set BP sword. So this sword will be referencing this blueprint here specifically when we call this variable. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is go to our meshes folder. We're going to add a socket to our character skeleton. We're going to go to our hand R and add socket. We'll just call this weapon socket R for now. And we're going to add a preview mesh of our weapon just so we can get the rotation properly on the socket. Rotate the socket 90 and then move it down so that's in the player's hand. And that should be good for now. And now we want to go to our... Just going to close out of some of this stuff. Or all this stuff for now. Now we want to go to our blueprints, character, and our master character. And here we want to go to our input graph, and we're going to create new input. Actually, first we want to go to our edit and project settings, inputs, and we'll create a new input called pickup. And we'll just use E for now. Let's put that right here. Let's search for pickup. Input we just created. And here we want to create a couple of more things. First we'll create the pickup trace. So we want to create a function. We'll call this pickup trace. And from here we'll create a sphere trace by channel. And we'll drag from our mesh and get socket location. Head just puts the starting point at the head. I'll set it up a little differently after when I set up a crosshair and stuff. But for now this will do. And keep that for visibility and for duration for now. Make some room. And we want to get our follow camera. Get forward vector, so it's aiming, looking forward towards whatever way the camera is looking. We want to multiply that by a number. Let's do 300. So that'll trace 300 units outwards. And to get our end location, we add these two vectors together. So it'll be a start location plus 300, and it'll be going forward from the camera, whatever way the camera is looking, but it'll start from the player's head. And just to test that out, and when you press E, you should get a trace from your head, whatever way the camera is facing. There shouldn't be a line trace. Oh, our radius is at 0. I'll just set this to like 5. That now the line trace is a little thicker. From here we want to break the hit event. We can get the results of what it hit, and if the hit actor is is a child of the master pickup class, then it will return the reference to the master pickup class. The reference to the master pickup class, and we'll just call this pickup ref. And we'll just quickly comment this: trace from head sockets 300 units, head in the camera direction. That should be good enough for now. Return a preference. Child of master pickup is hit by the line trace. So now that we have that done, we have our line trace finished. So now we have that done, we want to head back to our input graph, and from here we want to create a couple things. Custom event, 2 custom events. This one will be called multicast pickup and multicast reliable. Next one will be called custom event server underscore pickup. And this one will run on server. Let's put this one up here. And this one we'll call server multicast pickup. And from the multicast pickup, we want to create an input and call it pickup ref, and search the master pickup. And we want to drag out from this and promote it to a variable. And then we'll connect that to the server. Finally, server pickup. So now, from here is creating the reference to the pickup and then feeding it to the server pickup. The server pickup is feeding it to everyone else, to the multicast, which sends it the pickup reference to everyone else. So now that we have the multicast pickup, we want to create actually no, we won't do that right yet. We will spawn actor from class, and this will be we will get our pickup ref, which was set, and we will search this for holdable BP, which is the variable we created earlier. It's the reference to the holdable blueprint that's set in the pickup. So for our case, it's the sword pickup reference is the sword holdable. And for the spawn transform, we want to make transform, and the location will be get socket location on the mesh. I'll move this over some more so we have some space. And the socket we're going to get is the weapon socket. And variables like this will be eventually read from our data table structure so that we have set up. For now, we'll do this for now. I'll do a cleanup later. Okay, you want to always spawn, ignore collision. And you want to promote this to a variable. And this is your reference to your holdable reference. Because right now it's spawning your holdable item that's reference set in your pickup blueprint. So now we have a reference to our holdable item. And our holdable item is spawned. But it's not attached to our character or anything yet. So we want to attach that to our character. We want to get our holdable ref, get our holdable mesh, attach component to component. And the component we want to attach it to is the mesh. And the socket name is weapon socket. So now it will attach it to the weapon socket. Attach holdable item to the weapon socket. And we want to snap the target. Spawn holdable item item BP set and pickup reference children and set a reference. Now we have a reference created. It's spawning and it's attaching it. Let's test out and see what we got. Oop. First I'm going to go to my blueprints and items, and we're going to go to our pickups, and we're going to drop a sword in the world. And we should okay. Problem here would be, we'll check these. First we want to go to our master pickup, and we want to set this to replicates. See if that fixes anything. So double check how everything's set in here. EP sword. Okay, so I figured out my problems. First thing we're going to do is right here I made a mistake. This is supposed to be connected multicast after the reference is set. And in our BP sword, not our pickup, but our regular one, we want to set our static mesh to sword. Double check this one. And now that that's done, we also want to go to our holdable mesh. First, I'm going to create a new object channel. So in my project settings, edit project settings, I'm going to go to collision, and I'm going to create a new one called weapon. I'm going to set this to ignore. And just double checking a few of these. Block all, you want to set to block. Overlap all, you want to fix. Block all. Overlap all dynamic on. You want to keep it ignoring. And that should be good for now. Then we go into your BP sword. Yeah, BP sword, and you want to set this to custom, and I'll compile that weapon. And I guess with this, just set to ignore all these, I guess. Now, actually, we want to go to our master holdable. So items, holdable. And custom on the collision, weapon. Set that to ignore pawn, physics body, vehicle destruction, weapon, and camera. So that's good enough for that for now. Pretty sure I said this already, but want to go to BP sword and set this to replicate, see it. Okay, so now I want to check if this is valid. And if it is valid, we'll do the server pickup. And we'll just test this out. So it'll pick up the weapon and attach it to the hand. It doesn't destroy it yet. And we'll test it out in multiplayer. And it's attached to the hand. And quickly test it on the server. And it's attached to the hand. Okay. So that's good. Now we just want to set up destroying the item, and that will be it for this video. The next video we'll work on setting up the data table, cleaning up this a little bit. So from here we want to, we'll also work on setting the stance, and next video I think I'll import the melee animations. So we want to go to our replication graph, and we'll just create a custom event, call it multicast, destroy, pickup. From here we want to destroy the actor. And the actor we're going to destroy is a pickup reference. So this one right here destroys pickup reference. So we're going to go back to our input graph and search for multicast destroy pickup. And that should destroy it when we pick it up. Both the server and the client. Yep. And I'm going to quickly set this variable here for the stance. After you attach it, we're going to want to get the holdable item reference and get the item details, which gets the structure, where we want to break it so we can get stance. And from here, we're going to want to get the vector component. Search for set stance, so we're setting the player's stance to whatever is in the item the holdable reference is item details, so stance is right here in the item details to melee. So when you equipped it, we'll get that holdable item child of it, look at the details, and it will get the stance and set that. Right now it's not doing anything, but later we'll be using it to determine animation stances and other useful things. And also we're going to take this and copy. I'm just going to add this in here for items that I'll put it right here. So this is going to be for the item is not an attachable item. We want to not equal whip. So basically, we pick up an item and it has an unequipped stance. Then we'll check if that's true or false. And if it doesn't, I'll do the equal. It's a little easier that way. So if it equals unequipped stance, then we will just destroy the actor. Because we don't want to attach it, and because we're not setting any animations for this is for something, say you pick up like a boost that it's not an item that you want to attach to your player or show visible, just like gives like an instant boost for like say 60 seconds or whatever when your character clicks on it, then that would be an unequipped. We'll set this up a little better, probably using the item type after. For now, we also need to check this so we know if it's unequipped or not. And if it does have an equipped stance, then we'll spawn it. Basically means if it's a melee weapon, a magic weapon, or a range weapon. That's why we're probably going to use the weapon type later. But for now, this works. We don't actually have any items that are usable yet, so when we get into that, we'll probably clean that up a little more. I'll comment that. Not really too sure for what to comment this for now, but that'll do. Definitely going to change this up later because the more I think about it, the more it just doesn't look right. Use the unequipped stance for checking that, but for now, it'll work. Actually, I'm just going to delete it. Just disregard that altogether. Okay. So that is everything for this video. In the next video, we'll be importing animations so that we don't just go T-pose. And if you don't want your character to go T-pose, just disable this stance when you're picking up a weapon for now. So it doesn't set because it's setting a stance that has no animations yet. The next video we'll set up the animations. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave those. And don't forget to like the video. Thanks. See you after in the next video.